Hello, this is Steve Goodman from Environmental Science here, and today we're going to be having a quick look at the MultiRae Lite. So this is going to be a fairly comprehensive guide on what the MultiRae Lite does and all its functionality. So the version that I've got today is the pumped unit, so this can draw a sample from about up to 10 meters away, but the advantages of using the pumped unit is basically we get faster response time in comparison to a diffusive monitor. It comes with a belt clip on the back. You have a removable lithium-ion battery. We also have a AA version which can go in there if we don't want to use lithium-ion. And we also have a wrist strap. So to turn the unit on, we essentially take it and press and hold the power button. So the unit will give you an audible warning that it's started up, and it will go through its self-test and startup mode. Now, whilst it's doing this, it will go through the unit, tell you the firmware revisions on there and the sensor firmware revisions on there, its configuration as it's showing now, and then it will go through each individual sensor, telling you its last calibration, when it was originally manufactured, and its current alarm values. Now, what it's currently doing now is going to go through all of this, telling you all this information, but this is also allowing the unit to warm up and for sensors to stabilize before you actually use it. So there is a reason for this almost delay tactic. For all gas monitors, you should allow them to start up and warm up for a duration before you even think about using them, because chemical reactions in the electrochemical sensors take a while before they'll stabilize, let's put it like that. So let's just leave it to warm up. We'll probably fast forward through this. So the unit's now warmed up and started, and as you can see, we've got carbon monoxide here, nitrogen monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide and CO2. Now next to these you've got little symbols here which indicate that certain sensors need calibrating, which is a very handy little feature here. It's basically telling me that I shouldn't really be using this, to be honest. It needs a calibration in each of those sensors, but we're going to ignore that for the moment. Just this is purely for demonstration purposes. So if we want to scroll through different screens, we can press this across arrow here, and this screen will give me peak values, minimum values, STELs, so short-term exposure limits, time-weighted averages, so longer-term exposure limits, gives you the date, the time this was recorded, current temperature, your lithium-ion battery, the battery voltage and percentage charged, and the shut-off voltage, how long it's been currently running for, the previous runtime, and this is where you can put the unit into communications mode for hooking up to a computer. And now we're back round to the original screen. So let's quickly take you through the menus and see what you can do. So the way to get into the menus is by pressing the power and no button. So press and hold for 5 seconds. And it'll ask for a password. Now the default password on these units is 4 zeros. So we press up once to get 0, and again, and again, and again. And once we're done, we say done. So now we've got the full menu. So this is the calibration menu, this is the measurement menu, alarms, datalog. If you had Wi-Fi, this is the Wi-Fi and communications menu and general monitor setup. So we're going to quickly go into calibration, and I'm going to take you through this menu and show you how to calibrate a sensor. So we have fresh air, multi-sensor span, single sensor zero, single sensor span, multi-sensor bump, single sensor bump, multi-cal select, if I carry on down here, and change span values. So all of these should be fairly self-explanatory. Fresh air is essentially a fresh air calibration. Multi-sensor span is calibrating multiple sensors at the same time. Single sensor zero is obviously single sensor zero. Single sensor span, yet again, is calibration of a single sensor only. And then we've got multi-sensor bump, so that's just basically testing to see if sensors respond to a known concentration of gas. Single sensor bump, so same again, just for single sensor. Multi-cal select, this is basically telling the unit when you have a calibration gas which is of a mixture, which sensors to actually calibrate with that gas. And change span values is essentially changing the concentration of the gas that you're using to span the actual unit. So let's just do a quick fresh air calibration. So if I press select here, that'll take me to this fresh air calibration mode, and it's telling me that CO, NO2, NO and SO2 are calibratable through using just fresh air. Now, things to make sure of in this situation is we do actually have fresh air and that we've got none of these components knocking around, otherwise our 0 point is going to be affected. So you'll notice CO2 isn't on here because we got CO2 constantly at approximately 400 parts per million. So if you zeroed it now, you would have an artificial 0, 400 parts per million higher than it should be. So we're going to say start, and it will do a 60-second zero. Now we'll just fast forward through this because you don't want to be watching 60 clock ticking down for 60 seconds. So that unit has now finished doing its fresh air calibration. You can see that it's told you it's passed all those zeros. So it's now telling you the reading, which is 0, 0 and 0, 0 and 0 and 0 for all of them. So it automatically flicks onto multi-sensor calibration. We're not going to do one of those because I want to show you a single sensor calibration. So if we skip that and we go to single sensor span. Now, today I've got nitrogen monoxide, so nitric oxide, and I'm going to select from here nitric oxide and do the calibration. Now what you can see here is this is 50 ppm and it's saying that it wants to calibrate at 25. So what we need to do is come back out of here, come back again, and this is where we go and change the concentrations of the calibration gases. So if I go change span value, nitrogen monoxide, and I need to change this to 50. And say done, save, let's go back again. Now we go to single sensor span, nitrogen monoxide, and now you'll see that the concentration matches what's on the canister. So we use on-demand regulators here for pumped units. Now this will output the amount of gas required to actually calibrate this. You can also use normal regulators which output approximately 500 ml per minute. So we're going to take this now and we're going to apply it to unit. There we go. And if a sensor's in a healthy condition, it should automatically start calibrating. So you can see here it automatically detects the gas and is now calibrating to 50 parts per million. So this is now coming to the end of the calibration. You'll see it flick through and tell you what the actual reading is. So it's now saying 50 ppm passed. And you've got a slight wavelengths there, but that's very normal when you're looking at these sort of concentrations. So now we're done, we remove the gas. And if we wanted to continue calibrating individual sensors, we could then get a different can of gas for carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, NO2 and CO2 and carry on doing that. So if I wanted to calibrate a CO2 sensor now, if I were to go around the list and I go single sensor 0, I went to the CO2, I'd then have to get a canister of pure nitrogen with the on-demand regulator and calibrate it using the same method but with pure nitrogen. So let's quit that menu. Now we're not going to show you single sensor bumps and all that sort of thing. If you want to do it, you can do, but it's literally just checks to see if sensors are working properly rather than actually calibrating them. So that's all we're going to show you from the calibration menu. If we go to the 999 ppm, which basically is measurements unit menu, you'll see that we can turn sensors on and off and change the measurements units. So if I select this, I can essentially toggle which sensors are turned on and off here. Now I'm not going to do that because I don't need to, but the option's there for you. Measurement units you can select, and this is saying electrochemical sensors and CO2. If you had a PID sensor, it would be listed as a VOC sensor here as well. So we're just going to pop into electrochemical, and you can change the units from ppm to milligrams per meter cubed. Now there's no need for this for what we're doing, so we're going to leave it as ppm. So, alarm menu now. If we pop in here, now we've got alarm limits, alarm mode, alarm settings, comfort beep and man down. So alarm limits are exactly what it says. If we pop into it, we can then change different alarm limits as we wish. So if we go into them, you can set the sensor and you can change what you want the unit to alarm at. We're going to go back because we don't want to change any of these. Alarm mode, auto reset. So this is basically when gas goes above a certain level, it will go into alarm. When it drops back below a certain level, it will automatically cancel that alarm. Latching is essentially the instant it goes into alarm, you actually need to acknowledge it for it to be able to turn the alarm off. We're not going to touch those. Alarm settings. Now this is where you can have all features enabled, so all lights, buzzer and vibration, or you can select different combinations of below. And that's literally, you just toggle what you want. I'm not going to change those, there's no need. Comfort beep. Now this is essentially, if we go into it, we turn it on, and the unit will beep periodically just to let us know that it's still working and okay. We're going to ignore that. And man down alarm is essentially, there's a little accelerometer in here. If the unit were to be still for too long a period, it would go into a man down alarm, assuming that someone's not responding or just not moving, and that's a problem. Datalog. So we've got clear datalog, datalog interval, sensor selection, datalog type, and memory full action. Clear datalog is exactly what it says. Basically, it will clear the whole datalog. Datalog interval, this is where we can change the interval at which it takes a data point for us. As default, they're set to 60 seconds. We're not going to change this. Sensor selection, you can choose which sensors you want to datalog. We've got all selected. Data selection, this is where you can decide what data you actually want to record from each of those sensors. We're going to leave them all selected there. Datalog type, automatic, manual or snapshot. We always put our units to automatically, so the instant they're turned on they start data logging. Manual is essentially where you start and stop data logs as you wish, and snapshot is, as it says, it takes an instantaneous snapshot for you. We're going to leave our unit on automatic. Memory full action, so we can have two things, wraparound or stop when full. If we have wraparound set, it will essentially get to the memory, fill it up, and then it will start overwriting the first memory which was written on there. So if we go back now, Wi-Fi menu I'm not going to show you because this doesn't have Wi-Fi enabled on it, very few units do. And then we've got the general settings menu here, so if we select there, we can change the LCD contrast. Operation mode, this is where we can put it in search or hygiene. We always leave ours in hygiene. Pump speed, you can have high or low, so if we put it to low, you can instantly hear the change. This basically draws the air through at a lower rate. 0 at startup. Now some people have this turned on, some people have it turned off. This is essentially exactly what it says. It will zero the sensors when the unit starts up. Fast startup. This is essentially where it doesn't go through all those scrolling menus of each of the sensors, telling you its calibration dates and everything like that when it starts. And tries to go as quickly as possible to readings. Now, as we originally said, these sensors need time to warm up regardless. So personally, I see no point in this function. Temperature units, Well, you can have degrees Fahrenheit or degrees Celsius there. If you're ever anywhere apart from America, we're looking at degrees Celsius. Language, that's fairly obvious. And then you can put site IDs and user IDs in there, which will go into the data log for you. Date format. So yet again, we're in the UK, where we put day, day, month, month, year, year. We also have the American format, and then you have the reverse format. I don't exactly know where that's used, but it's there as an option. So date, this is where you essentially change date. Time format is 24 hour or 12 hour, take your pick. Changing time. User mode, so you have advanced or basic. Advanced basically means you can get straight into all these menus without entering a password normally, and you have the additional functionality there. Backlight, well, that's essentially the backlight turned on or off, and you have the option for automatic. So because there's accelerometers in here, the instant it feels movement, the backlight will turn on. LCD flip. Now this is turned on. I can demonstrate this for you in a minute. So if I come back out here, and I'm using a unit, and I turn it upside down, the LCD flips. Pretty self-explanatory really. If we were to have a unit in data logging mode, which was manual, I'll just show you this a moment. Press power and no to get back into those menus. We go back to the data log, and we say manual. Save, come back out. So if we want to data log now, you can see that that data log symbol is not flashing. We have to scroll through the menus using the right arrow key. And it will say start data log. You say yes, and you'll see that the data log symbol is now starting to flash. There you go. And you can stop data log, say yes again. So that's essentially it from the MultiRae. We'll have a separate video on how to actually take the unit apart and change sensors. But this should be a fairly comprehensive guide on changing the setup and just generally using the MultiRae. So if you've got any further questions, feel free to contact us on 01904 373 018 or on info@environst.com. Anyway, thank you and goodbye.